The number one thing that works best is word of mouth. When people know what you're doing and you do it well, they tell others. It's a double-edged sword though, right? We ended up violating someone else's patent and someone else's trademark. And we learned in a heartbeat that you just can't do that. If you even imagine that someday you might possibly be running a business or starting your own, find mentors who have been there and done that before. By surrounding yourself with a variety of mentors and experts, you'll be able to go to them and have them be sounding boards when you need them most.
Today's guest is someone bringing a whole new level of energy to our pickleball community, the founder of the Friendly Pickle, a brand new indoor pickleball facility that blends the fun of the sport with a country club feel. It's got this warm, welcoming vibe, cozy seating, friendly faces, and a space that it just feels like home for players of all levels. I actually got connected with Ben through one of his coworkers, but more importantly, I play there myself. So I've seen firsthand how much care and heart has gone into building this place. So Ben, I'm really excited to hear your story. In speaking with you pre-show, it sounds like that you are a serial entrepreneur and that this is your 12th business, but everyone has a unique journey. So before we jump into your backstory, just give me a quick overview of the Friendly Pickle. What do you do? Who do you serve? And what makes it special?
Sure. Thank you, Judy. It's a pleasure to be here. So Friendly Pickle was actually a business that we acquired. It existed previously in a nearby town, and that's one of the places that we learned to play pickleball. My wife and I enjoyed it, but unfortunately, the owner of that business decided to ultimately close the initial club. And so we, after some discussion, said, why don't we pick it up? It sounds like a great name that we want to see continue in the community. He had an existing website and a small following on Facebook, and enough people in the pickleball community around Kalamazoo understood who Friendly Pickle was originally. And so it was a nice, easy launching point for us. We ended up having to invent a lot of things on our own, but at the same time, with that pre-existing community and a name, it helped us establish a decent club. Friendly Pickle is currently an indoor-only club, and it's all about pure pickleball. We have 8 courts, 2 nice-sized lounges that you reflected on a bit there, and it is the result of about 3 years of planning and then a year of execution to get the place built and now start operating.
Nice. So 3 years in the works. Wow. Okay. I just picked pickleball up 3 years ago. And man, that sport sure has grown. So it's such an awesome addition to the community. And I absolutely love playing there, and everything that you've built is absolutely amazing. Let's rewind just a bit, because I love hearing how things begin. It's usually where the best stories live. So how did this all get started? How did you become a serial entrepreneur?
I have to go way back on that. I'm the middle child, so 3 children in the family. My father was a very hardworking individual, and he ran his own construction business for a time. He ended up selling that and ultimately going into ministry, of all things. And so because of that transition in his life, he taught each of us, myself and my 2 siblings, to do all kinds of trades. And so I can do carpentry, electrical work, I can do plumbing, I can do concrete. And those skills were there because he wanted us to have something to fall back on in case that college thing didn't work out. Well, in college, it did work out, but I had an entrepreneurial bent already in college. I was doing independent jobs, doing all kinds of small renovations and improvement projects, and just finding my own work as I went through school. And so I made my way through college doing that kind of independent work. And when I graduated, I did the put resumes out and find or work on finding a job. And I did. I landed at a retail store in the Kalamazoo area, and I learned how to sell technology. I had majored in computer science, but couldn't find a traditional programming job. This is the late 1980s, and decided, well, I can do this retail thing for a period of time until something else comes along. Well, that business ended up not succeeding. It ended up closing doors. And so I was left on my own for about 2 weeks, maybe 3. And some of the customers looked me up and found me individually and said, well, while we, search for somebody else and while you search for something else, could you do this and that and the other thing for us? Since I had been doing that through college anyway, I was able to just kind of pick up the business hat at that point and become an independent consultant. And it was at exactly the right time in terms of local area networks and learning how to do servers and workstations and internet connectivity. So now, again, this is the late 1980s into the 90s. That was when it was just an explosive growth opportunity. So I wasn't necessarily great at it, but I was good enough that I was able to continue to feed my family, generate and earn a living, and do that kind of IT work. Anyway, that's where it started. That business grew to the point where I was so busy, I couldn't get a vacation and I needed some time off. I was probably 3 years in of like 6-7 days a week. It was just too much. And so I found a local company who was they were a good competitor, but I respected the work they were doing. And I approached them and said, hey, I would love to be able to take a vacation. Can you take care of my clients while I'm gone for a couple of weeks and hand them back, please, when I'm done? And they did exactly that. I came back from vacation. There were a couple of things that were dealt with as emergencies, and the clients were very happy. And the provider was very happy to hand those clients back to me. So that began a conversation. And within a year, we ended up merging our 2 businesses together so that I could continue doing the work I enjoyed, serving the customers that we had, and then growing the mutual business together. So that was a really good learning experience to go from being on my own to now having business partners.
Okay, so that was sounds like your first endeavor into entrepreneurship, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
The first serious one, yes.
And then just real quickly, just kind of rattle off the different types of industries that you were in along the way.
So the IT company, we put local area networks in for all kinds of small businesses and schools throughout Southwest Michigan. And so by doing that, I was exposed to law firms, to manufacturing businesses. It resulted in a number of opportunities for me to make investments. And so besides doing that IT work, I was able to generate enough capital for myself that I could invest in a payroll business and ultimately in a trade show company, and then a pickleball paddle company. 2019 was exactly the wrong year to come out with a brand new paddle because the market went from less than 1,000 paddles to nearly 3,000 paddles in 1 year. Now there's over 5,000 paddles, and we quickly learned that we just didn't have what it would take to really compete on a national scale. But anyway, there's a lot of side stories.
So I'm extraordinarily interested because I have always been an entrepreneur at heart, but I've never had the guts or the funding or maybe the brains behind it to really start something. But you've started 12 different things. So I'm really impressed with how you have lived your business journey and your life. I mean, you recognize an opportunity and you're seizing on it, right?
There is a lot of recognizing the opportunity. There's a tremendous amount of willingness to seize it. But I'll also tell you, I'm an avid reader. So I'm going to hold up this book multiple times. Seth Godin is by far the most knowledgeable marketing guru I can point to. He took his blog, asked a number of questions, and people responded. And then the first number of people who responded were given free copies of his book. And then he posted their pictures in this inside cover of the jacket of the book, right? So my picture is in there on that cover because I contributed to what he was asking. And I didn't know that was going to be the result, but it was just a fun outcome, right? And so he's just a master at marketing. And so I'll just leave it at that. It's enough.
I just listened to a podcast that he was a guest on, and I haven't had much exposure to him, but I loved everything that he said. And then now that you're reiterating how much of a guru he is, I'm going to have to revisit that because I really did enjoy everything that he had to say when I was listening to him, like I said, as a guest. So you've been there, you've done that several times over. What has your entrepreneurial journey been like, if you could describe it in 3 words?
So the word expected, which I'll have to explain, challenging, and energizing, all 3 of those. So expected comes from the early description of my childhood and being in a hardworking family. And essentially, you would go to school Monday through Friday, and Saturday was work day. We always worked around the house. We always had projects. We had different chores, etc. But you were expected to participate in that. And if you could do it yourself, the expectation was that you will, instead of hiring it out. We were not well off. We shopped at Goodwill. We shopped at all of the discount food stores to be able to make ends meet. And so whenever possible, if there was a project to be done, we did it ourselves. And I think that just planted seeds in me to always look at things. How can I do this? Wherever I encountered a challenge, it was, how can I take care of that and do it? So in a lot of ways, it was just expected of me. And later in life, when I was pursuing career options, I landed on, well, I can do that. I can do that. And I can do this other thing too. So it hasn't really ever daunted me to consider doing something. So that was the expected part. But then the challenging aspect was, every business was far more detailed, far more involved, and far more difficult than I expected or thought it might be. And so as much research as I did, I had a lot of learning to do every time. There is more than you ever anticipate in any given business.
I'm already starting to see a common theme with successful entrepreneurs, and that is coming from a family of hard workers. And oftentimes coming from a family that, like what you mentioned, weren't exactly well off, and they had to work for everything to get to where they're at today. Just curious, did you have a job in your early teens, or what was your first job that you can remember?
First job that I can remember going out to get was at a local drugstore. And I was stocking shelves and running the cash register at, I think, age 13 or 14, something like that. The second job was picking blueberries. We were fortunate enough to have a small trailer vacation spot in Holland, Michigan when I was growing up, even though we were in the Chicago area. So we would go to Holland in the summers, and that was a place where we were expected to go find a summer job. And so I did the picking of blueberries. I quickly realized that was not going to be a career choice for me. And instead, I asked my father, well, what else could I do? And he said, well, if you don't want to do that, you need to go find something. And so I created some flyers, and I ended up painting cottages and building decks for the rest of that summer, because picking blueberries was not going to be my thing. So I was already, just exercising that entrepreneurial muscle without knowing really what it was. And I'm in high school at this point, and I'm like, well, I'm going to go do this because I know how.
So when you went out on your own and started to, create your businesses and set up shop, a lot of businesses have a hard time conceptualizing how to go about funding them. So maybe walk me through funding. If you're a brand new business and you want to get something kicked off, like what would you explain to somebody about funding?
Funding is a challenging subject because there's all kinds of ways to fund a business. But my personal experience has been that I bootstrap almost everything that I've done, or I join in with other people who are also fiscally responsible and capable of funding their portion of the business. And so it's not been, let's go out and find investors. All of the other examples are companies where we, the people who were investing, were active in the business in some fashion. The reason for that, I believe, is I just feel like it's so much easier to hold people accountable when they have money in and they can be held to account for what they have to contribute besides the money. Money is one part, but you need their expertise, you need their time, you need their attention to help solve whatever challenges and issues come along. So funding is a tricky one. And I've just been like frugal, I guess, to say you need to bootstrap and you need to figure it out and you need to be good at it. So then that leads to the other aspect of, well, how do I know I'm good at it? And so I'm going to say, make sure you work in that area first and you surround yourself with people who are better than you and figure out, what is this business really about? How does it make money? And how can we do it better? And then really challenge yourself to figure out, do I know enough to be able to say, I can be considered an expert and I can truly do this better with this difference, whatever that difference is. There's, it can be a difference in how you make something. It can be a difference in how you market something. It could be a difference in how you source something. There's just a myriad of ways to improve a business.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never thought of it that way in terms of it could be different just through the sourcing. So I was able to witness the pre-launch of the Friendly Pickle and all of the efforts that went into social media and the videos and the hype. But going back towards the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey, what marketing tactics did you use and how did you acquire customers?
The number one thing that works best is word of mouth. When people know what you're doing and you do it well, they tell others. It's a double-edged sword though, right? And so the other side is, if you don't do it well, they tell even more people. So if you're going to do something, you better do it really, really well and make sure everybody has a great experience. And if there is ever a not so great experience, follow up with those people. Make sure you're talking to everybody, not just the ones that are happy, but especially the ones who are unhappy, right? So that's really the foundation of to me, the best marketing, the word of mouth. After that, it's have fun with what you're doing. That's our philosophy at Friendly Pickle. Have fun with it and be willing to be a little bit silly. This is a risky thing to say. Pickleball is a little bit of a silly sport, right?
Yes.
It's adults, it's people chasing a little plastic ball around a court. And it's really competitive, but it's a lot of fun. And so that combination of things is what led us to take the marketing approach we did. We just want to go play. That's why in our early video, we were out there in the snow and with the different scenarios of hitting it against a sign or whatever. We just wanted to demonstrate we're ready to go and we want to play and we want you to come play too. And so watch the Friendly Pickle come to life and come play at our club.
So just out of curiosity, would you ever go back and revisit that paddle that you're trying to launch? Or is that ship has sailed?
We still own the designs. We still have a significant inventory of paddles that we're selling off slowly. If you ever want to experience one of our paddles, they're at the club. That's what our rental inventory is. And that's some of the paddle inventory of what we're selling. So sure, the technology has continued to evolve much like the game has. And so if we were to revisit it, we would have to do a significant number of changes to, let's say, catch up with the current products that are on the market. But in my retirement years, Friendly Pickle is this retirement project. Really only want one retirement project in the end. So I don't know that I'll resurrect the paddle company.
Well, that's a heck of a retirement project, though. I like that. So throughout this journey, this wonderful journey that you have there been any moments where you literally just wanted to throw the towel in and call it a day? Like, it's just done.
A couple, yes. So there's an interesting thing. When you talk to entrepreneurs, the faster they come up with an answer or an example, the deeper the learning was, the experience that led them to that response. So for me, it was nearly missing a payroll. That just, I don't ever want to experience that feeling again. Right. And so not planning, not having receivables, staying on top of receivables, not having the cash flow to be able to cover a payroll. I was within $2 of missing a payroll. And I just don't want to have that experience ever again. Right. So, and that was after deciding I wasn't going to pay myself on that payroll. It's just this level of anxiety that I don't desire to repeat. So the other example that comes to mind is being really sure about legal. We had a situation where we were producing a product and we thought for sure that we were covered in all kinds of ways in terms of a trademark and copyright. And we ended up violating someone else's patent and someone else's trademark. And we learned in a heartbeat that you just can't do that. And so it was an expensive learning experience on our part where we had to reshape what our brand was and some of our product to be able to no longer violate those two things.
Wow. Okay. Well, and I was just going to ask you with the next question, if there's a lesson that you have learned that you could pass on to the next wave of entrepreneurs.
Find mentors as early as you can. If you even imagine that someday you might possibly be running a business or starting your own, find mentors who have been there and done that before, right? That's just essential. Read as much as you can. It's a ever-changing dynamic world and environment that we live in. And you need to be able to keep up and figure out, okay, is the premise where I think I'm going to start going to stay solid, or do I need to be ready to shift and change, and in what ways? There's a lot there.
Yeah. I was talking to other entrepreneurs, and the word pivot, right? Shifting is so integral to growth because, my gosh, I would say in the last 6-7 years, there's been an immense amount of change that if you didn't pivot, you're probably not here today in a successful business.
I'll even say that there is an element of luck. So reflecting on that word pivot, yes, as we were going into the pandemic, the company I was involved with then had resisted doing any kind of remote employee work. And so when the pandemic hit, we had to pivot to go remote. But then we were also somewhat lucky that the customers we were serving and the service we were providing was considered essential. So we were able to get out to the customer as needed and continue to support them in order to keep their business running. And so that was, I guess, luck, right? In some ways, we couldn't have predicted that would be an outcome, but it worked out to be in our favor.
Well, with all that you have done, all that you have experienced, and I'm going to ask you a question that you probably have a lot of answers to, so it might be a little bit tough for you, but what are you most proud of everything that you have accomplished to date? Give me something that you are really proud of.
So I'm going to say there's two things. One, people. I majored in computer science in school, got into business doing a variety of computer-related things, discovered that I loved business and the dynamics of business, and then from there realized the number one thing I liked doing the most was helping to develop people. Seeing people make progress and intentionally working with people who wanted to learn and become better, that has been my absolute greatest joy in business. And so the people are the thing and the aspect that I'm most proud of. The other is creating a number of businesses that, even though we were started in the 90s or early 2000s, continue to exist today. And having them have a greater purpose than just us individually saying, great, we have a job and we can employ other people. They have a purpose greater than the people themselves.
I personally absolutely love that answer because I'm at that stage of my career where I literally just want to pass the baton of knowledge on to the next generation. And it sounds like you have very similar love and desire to help people grow. Now, on the opposite spectrum, is there anything that scares you as it comes to business?
If I were to have a group of investors that I needed to report to, that would scare me. That would keep me awake at night. I really don't like to have to report to anyone except my family, particularly my wife. And so knowing I have her full support and we are working together in this endeavor, it's the first time that we've worked together, but it's been fantastic. And she is the one I need to satisfy in this business. So not having to satisfy a bunch of investors quarter to quarter or month to month has been a huge relief. There's a number of unknowns that I can't control. I like to be able to see the variables and manage as many of them as possible, or have people who can manage those for us. And so it's that unpredictable aspect that is worrying at times. When we did our grand opening, it was fantastic. We loved having so many people come to the club. Our parking lot is set up for 65 cars. We had 160 people at that grand opening, and we didn't know what was going to happen with, just literally the parking. Like, okay, we didn't expect this many people all at once. And so we were on the fly trying to deal with that kind of stuff. But it's that kind of thing. Like, okay, now it's worrying in the moment. We dealt with it. We handled it just fine.
It's a great problem to have.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the worst one would be nobody shows up, right? You build the building, you market it, and you hire the employees, train everybody, open the doors, and it's crickets.
That did not happen. No.
That did not happen. No, and we work every day to make sure it doesn't happen. Yeah.
So what would you say is some of the best advice that you've received over the year that you may or may not have taken?
This echoes back to, I think, a previous answer. Do the job of the business first. Become very good at that. Surround yourself with other mentors and experts. And then just keep in the back of your mind, you will be surprised. No one can know everything you need to know. But by surrounding yourself with a variety of mentors and experts, you'll be able to go to them and have them be sounding boards when you need them most.
And who was your mentor?
Well, I had a number of them and still do. Very early on, it was a gentleman who ran a small manufacturing business. He was one of my first IT customers. We ended up at his same church, so our families got to know each other. I was invited to be on the school board because of him. I learned a tremendous amount from him about business, about software development that I hadn't anticipated as a business. Learned a lot about manufacturing from him. He was just a wonderful guidepost for me throughout the years, both as a businessman, but also as a family person running a business. There's a lot of things that can happen if you don't pay attention to your priorities. And for me, family trumps business every time.
You've given some extraordinary advice. And I have one last question. Maybe it will squeak out even more information and great advice from you. But if you could go back and tell your younger self some advice that would help you out immensely during this journey, what advice would you have given your younger self?
Be patient and stay in the job you have a little bit longer to really figure out, do you understand what you're about to get into? For me, that would have been what I should have done. Stayed in a particular job or two before going out on my own. Would have been easier, better, and moved faster. So if I had waited a bit longer before taking off and going on my own, I think I would have been more successful earlier on.
Well, thank you so much. Now is your time to put the spotlight on you and share with us, like, how do we support you?
Well, so friendlypickle.com is the website. We are open 7 days a week, 16 hours a day. We would love to have you come visit. If you know how to play pickleball, you understand a little bit what are the ways to get involved there. But if you've never held a paddle, we offer a free intro class, 90 minutes. You'll learn the basics of the game and be introduced to the coaches that are there. You'll be introduced to the environment, and you'll have an understanding of what it means to get out on the court and just enjoy a great game that can be super competitive, but also just a tremendous amount of fun with a social aspect that no other sport has that I can find. Thank you for the time. Thank you for this conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Founders Hustle. I would absolutely love to know what resonated with you the most from today's guest. Go ahead and drop me a comment if you're watching this on YouTube. Also, if there's a future topic that you'd like me to touch on, go ahead and drop that in the comments as well. But no matter where you're watching or streaming your favorite shows, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on social media. Tell a friend about this. I would love the support. But in the meantime, keep living, keep growing, and keep hustling, because you are meant to do great things. See you next week.